Hello aspirants, welcome to another session of the daily newspaper analysis. This video is brought to you by the Gurudev Academy. This is something about me. You can follow me on these social media handles for more educational videos and all. So today's topic that we are going to look at, these are the topics that we are going to look at. Firstly, we will do the editorial that has come, that is survey data on poverty and broad policy pointers. Firstly, you have to understand, I'm going to just give you a brief crux about what the article is. I want you all to read it. It is very straightforward. You will understand it in one go. So firstly, you have to understand what is the importance of survey and data. Okay. See, most of the surveys in our country is carried out by who? By the NSSO, that is your National Sample Survey Organization. The data that is gathered from this surveys, it is used to implement the government policies. Okay. If the government is thinking of implementing some yojana related to maternal mortality rate, the survey that has been done by the NSSO, the data will be gathered and analyzed, and based on it, the program is being structured. Okay. That is important here. Recently, one of the important surveys that is conducted in India, that is NFHS 5, that is National Family Health Survey 5. This is the fifth version of the National Family Health Survey. So recently, some of the data were brought out. Using this data, the Niti Aayog has announced what? It has announced your poverty index. Okay, it is your multi-dimensional poverty index. Okay. This poverty index, what is the use is that the under multi-dimensional poverty index, poverty is not just about the economic aspects. It includes health, education, as well as standard of living. Okay, based on it, your head count ratio is counted, as well as the intensity of poverty is counted. So here there are three indicators. Okay, there are three indicators here, and there are 12 categories of indicators. Okay, so the three categories of indicators, if we see, they are your health, education, as well as standard of living. Okay, as well as standard of living. Fine. So using the data provided from the NFHS, Niti Aayog has released your India's multi-dimensional poverty index. This multi-dimensional poverty index will help us to measure what? It will help us measure two aspects, that is intensity of the poverty, as well as what? As well as your head count ratio. As well as your head count ratio. Fine, these are the things that are measured here. When we look at the article, okay, the article here starts with what is NFHS. I have explained you, it is the National Family Health Survey conducted by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Here, see, the Niti Aayog, using the data of your NFHS, it is calculating what? It is calculating an index called as multi-dimensional poverty index. What does the index say here? It says that weighted average of deprivation in 12 indicators. Okay, so if the deprivation in all the 12 indicators on an average, okay, average of the 12 indicators, okay, average of the 12 indicators, if the score is more than 0.33, okay, if the score is more than 0.33, then that person is considered as what? Multidimensionally poor. Okay, that is the significance of your multidimensional poor index. So if it is increasing by 0.33%, then that is the total head count ratio. By how much population? Head count ratio is what? Your multidimensionally poor divided by the total population. Okay, so this will give you what? Head count ratio. This is the poverty line. Okay, this is the official poor that are present, officially recognized poor that are there in India. Then when we look at the other thing, that is your intensity of poverty. See, intensity of poverty is how far the living standards of the poor population is from the poverty line. That is, if someone is considered as a BPL family, okay, BPL person, and if he is lying in this line of poverty, okay, so what is the distance between this and this? That will be calculated as your poverty intensity. Fine. So under multi-dimensional poverty index, we are calculating head count ratio as well as the intensity of the poverty. Here in the article, the writers have used the case study of Tamil Nadu, how much of Tamil Nadu population which was under population has decreased, and what is the implication of the data that has been given. Here the main intention of the writer here is to highlight how the data collection method is flawed and what are the different types of implication on the data. Then he talks about direction of intervention. He talks that overall population that has been identified as deprived in most of the indicators individually is higher than the population identified as multidimensionally poor. Here what the writer is trying to say here is that, see, if a person is considered as multidimensionally poor. Okay, but here it is the average of the total 12 indicators. But what about some people who are struggling in 3 or 4 indicators? Okay, so they are not considered when the policy interventions are being done. When policies are designed, they are designed mainly to the poorest of the poor and not people who are also poor in some of the aspects here. Fine. So here what the author is telling is that when you are doing some policy intervention, when you have some policy intervention regarding poverty, it has to be not only it has to be universal and not directed. Okay, he says that whatever policies you have bring, it should be more universal, that is it should include majority of the population here. He also talks about another aspects, that is your data use and quality. Okay, as I have told, the NSSO data that is being collected, it is used for various policy interventions, and the data collection methods are too much flawed, is what the author is saying. We'll look at some of the points here. Some of the points like universal approach. Okay, as I mentioned, the approach of these policies should be universal. Secondly, curated with ground level realities. That is, see, whenever a policy, the problem with all the schemes and policies that India brings out, it is mainly top down approach. That is, the policies are designed at the top level and implemented in the at the village level and panchayat level. But what is the problem is, India is a diversified nation. The needs are very much diversified. So one size does not fits for all. The local needs have to be taken care of, is what the author is asking here. Nextly, he is talking about continuous engagement with the survey data, that is recall of the data. That is, once the data is being collected, it has to be authenticated by visiting and collecting the data again, is what the author is arguing here. He has also called for improving sample designs and response quality. Okay, sometimes what is happening is during the surveys that is being happen, the data that is being gathered is varied because of the educational level of that person who is giving out the data. So here they are saying that improve the sample design and response quality. He also talks about analysis of data and finding incongruency of inference. That is, sometimes the data that is being given, it is interpreted in a wrong way, or much of the considerations are not taken in when this interpretation is being made. That is what the author is arguing here, is that to analyze of the data and also finding incongruency of inferences. Here, what is the problem with the quality of the data when we look at it? It is in term of sampling and non-sampling error. The author has highlighted two aspects of quality of data, that is sampling and non-sampling error. Under non-sampling error, what is happening is a market-based approach to decide the data collection process. Okay, so whatever the data collection is being collected, the data that is collected, it is based on market-based, that is consumption, to increase the consumption. What the author is trying to highlight here is that the data that he is being collected, it has to be more human development oriented. Then he talks about the author have estimated that HCR for the 12 indicators and found that such ratio were lower in the post-lockdown period than the pre-pandemic period. See, here again, the author here uses the case study of Tamil Nadu. Okay, so one of the data that is given according to the two surveys that were conducted, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, it was found that the educational level of children has decreased only after the post-pandemic. Fine. So these are the flaws in the data that has to be corrected, and data has to be provided in a good manner so that the policy that are being implemented reaches the correct beneficiaries. Here is what the author is arguing. So I want you all to read the editorial. It is straightforward. You'll understand it in one go, and then you can copy all the mind map that I've done here. Then this is another news that has come up. This is your Guillermo Rios is the new leader of the UNMOGIP. Firstly, you have to understand what UNMOGIP is. See, UN, when the full form here is that UN military observer for the United Nations group in India and Pakistan. Okay, so what is happening is UN under resolution 391. Okay, under resolution of 39 in 1948 declared that UN, okay, there will be a UN supervisor who will be looking after the LOC in Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, so under the resolution 39 in 1948, it was decided that there will be a UN observer looking after the LOC that is there in Ladakh. Then what happened is, in the Karachi agreement, that was passed in July 1949, it was decided that these UN level secretaries would be staying in Jammu and Kashmir and they will be looking after this LOC. Later on, a Shimla agreement was passed. Okay, Shimla Agreement, the very famous agreement between India and Pakistan. Here, here it became a conflict that India wanted the UNMOGIP to vacate this observer post that they have, and India should continue to monitor the LOC. India and Pakistan should independently monitor the LOC. But Pakistan over the years has rejected India's claim and said that UNMOGP should be the supervisor who should look after the LOC. So this again is a very conflicting issue. The person who comes here is from Argentina. Okay. And Argentina also has a conflict going on with US relating to Falkland. Okay, so these are some of the issues that are given here. I want you all to just mark out the name. The name is very important, as well as what is UNMOGIP, Karachi Agreement, as well as Shimla Agreement. These are the things you have to look after here. Then this is one more news that has come up. This is a very small section that has given in the newspaper. Please read it. It is very important. Here, what the article says is that the article says is that the Atal pension beneficiaries, okay, no more Atal pension benefits for the IT payers. What the government has said that whoever, okay, if any citizen is found out that he is paying income tax returns and all, then that person will not be eligible for the Atal pension Yojana. What is Atal pension Yojana? Here, Atal pension Yojana is for your monthly pension after the age of 60. The monthly pension will be around 1,000 to 5,000 depending on the contribution. Okay, what is the contribution initially by the beneficiary? He or she will be getting 1,000 to 5,000 of the pension. So now the government has come out and say that the people who are filing ITRs, that is your income tax returns, they are not eligible for the Atal pension Yojana. Okay, moving on. So this is related to the recent failure of the SSLV. SSLV is your small satellite launch vehicle. So when we look at SSLV is a small launch satellite vehicle. Here, SSLV has a very interesting configuration, that is 500 by 500. That is, it can carry the payload. Okay, the total payload that SSLV can carry is 500 kg, and it can travel at the altitude of 500 kilometers. Okay, so what were the satellites that it was carrying? It was carrying the Earth Observation Satellite 2, okay, the second Earth Observation Satellite, as well as Azadi Sat. This Azadi Sat is a student satellite, okay, student satellite developed by KIDSI, okay, developed by KIDSI. Fine. So these are the two satellites that were being launched. So what is the issue here? See, this SSLV is equipped with 3 stages of solid fuel as well as 1 stage of liquid fuel. It is also has something called as velocity trimming module. Okay. So this velocity trimming module, it had to activate after the launch, that is after 653 seconds, that is 653 seconds, it had to activate and it had to burn for up to 20 seconds. But what happened is it just burned for 0.1 seconds and there was failure of sensors. And then what happened is this launch vehicle placed the satellites in elliptical order than the circular orbit. Okay, it placed the satellites in elliptic orbit and rather than the circular orbit. So what is the difference between elliptical orbit and circular orbit? See, elliptical orbit is along the path of the ellipses along the Earth. Okay, so it revolves in this motion. Okay, it revolves in this motion. So elliptical orbit is a place where some of the satellites are placed, and then initial boost is given to the satellites and they are placed in the circular orbit. So placing the satellites, if they are placed in elliptical order, they don't function well. So we have the circular orbit. See, the problem with this SSLV was it did not have enough fuel left to place our satellite in your circular orbit. Circular orbit is a place where most of the satellites are there. So what is happening is in the circular orbit they are moving in this path. So they are moving along the motion of the Earth. They are revolving along the motion of the Earth. This will help the satellites that are placed in circular orbit to be placed at one time along the motion of the Earth, and they will help to get the clearer pictures of our surface. If there was often movement along these orbit, what will happen is the cameras will not be able to gather a proper picture of our surface. That is the difference between the circular orbit as well as the elliptical orbit. Here what you have to remember is what is the total payload as well as the altitude capacity of SSLV. You have to remember what velocity trimming module is. You have to remember what elliptical as well as the circular orbit is. Okay, so that's all That's it from our today's session. Do follow us on the social media pages, that is on YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, as well as on Facebook. Thank you.